All right. 1, 2, 3.
4, 5, 6.
Awesome. I think we're ready to do this.
Are we ready to do it?
Yeah, we're ready.
What are you doing?
Why don't you just give me a second? 3, 2, 1. Hi, Garrett.
Hi, Justin.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Hey, Garrett.
How you doing,
hey,
man?
Justin. Doing great.
Doing good.
All right,
Doing
that's been the
awesome.
episode of Wizarding War Talks Back. We'll see you guys next
Take
time.
care, everybody.
Bye. Oh, that's a wrap.
Episode 7.
Episode 7.
Garrett, we haven't had you around in a while.
Yeah, I've been. There was a weird time rift, and a lot of things happened. Geez,
Multiple
the
timelines?
futures that I've seen are terrifying.
Well, maybe you shouldn't screw around with time turners. That shouldn't exist in the first place.
Well, honestly, it is canon. So I was like, why don't I try it out? I might as well see what happens. And, it's been good. In some futures, Tottenham won the league, and that was nice. In other futures, we lost to Manchester United at home, which did happen. But we did beat Burnley today, 5-0. I'm talking about sports. What am I doing? The only way to lose our listeners. Anyway.
Everybody, this is Alex Arntzen. He is the music composer for The Greater Good, Severus Snape and the Marauders, and all 7 episodes and the future episodes
All 7
of
and
The
to
Great
come.
Wizarding War.
Yes. We are so excited to have you on the
Hello.
show to pick your brain.
Yes, sir.
Pick away. This is a fun episode to score.
Yes.
We tried to put as much action in there as possible for you.
It was legit. It was like scoring an action movie, even though there was not the film, which was an interesting challenge because you're dealing with audio, which is masterfully crafted by Jordan King.
Of course.
So
and-
masterful, we had him on an episode.
Yeah, I
just
know.
to talk.
Yeah.
Don't tell me we had Jordan King first, because then it's going to be this weird thing.
But that
No,
we
it's all
did it
good.
because it's like
That's for
but
last.
it's
That's for
episode-
last.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you
That's
go.
for last. There you go. Okay,
There you
okay.
go.
We have
But,
started the
I had-
rivalry.
I had to bring him on for episode 4 with the werewolf.
And I'm excited for a couple episodes to come of sound engineering and scoring is going to be very, very important for a future episode.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes, I guess, ears peeled for that. That does kind of lead me into a question. How is this different for you than scoring like a movie or a trailer where you get to watch and you sort of feel what you're seeing and then you build your score kind of organically that way? How is this different for you?
Yeah, I mean, because you don't get, by definition, I'm a film composer, so generally speaking, I'm picking up on visual cues, not necessarily audio cues. But, there's a lot of times, though, where actually the cue in a film, although it's happening on screen, someone says something and then the music starts, right? That usually is the trigger for something, not necessarily a visual, but audio. So, in a way, it's not terribly different, but, you just have to be more cognizant of all the audio in the film so that when you do start and stop the music, you're doing it now with the audio. Like the audio is even more important to be in sync with. Because sometimes with visuals, you could, I guess, do certain things with music that the sound might be going and doing its own thing and you can do your own thing. But now it's like you kind of want to be simpatico or else it's going to be a little bit off.
Yeah, I was thinking you can't really fight with the sound engineering. Otherwise, we're going to lose a bunch of stuff.
And this is not different with scoring to audio versus film, but obviously there's certain sections of all the fight sequences where I would purposely then build up the score, and then get out of the way for the big spell sound effect, right? Because I can already hear it, which is actually nice because actually that's actually one advantage of scoring with audio already done is that usually I don't get to hear Jordan's sound effects beforehand
I
or
wanna
visual
make
effects.
I want to make sure that at least this episode that we got to hear that the sound effects were at least on a certain level done.
Yeah, because especially without visual, if I see something visually happening, I'm like, well, there's going to be an explosion, so I'm going to get out of the way.
So you have to see that and sort of do it intrinsically if you're watching something. But with this, at least you have it in the way already.
I think in general, there is always sort of a bit of a battle between sound design and music, and so I've discovered that the best way to get around that is to literally get around it, go in between and around the sound effects that are, especially the ones that are the most important and the most obvious, like explosions and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Or great lines from, characters like James Potter or whatever.
There's almost no
Stupefy.
The best line.
Such great lines.
well, even something as small as though the I assume we can talk about the episode.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
mask
If you guys
dropping.
haven't friggin' seen it yet,
shouldn't
stop
be here.
watching this right now. Pause it, obviously come back. But go listen to the episode and see the cool visuals and the art and stuff because everybody's put a lot of work into it.
That's true.
And I got to say, this was one of my favorite episodes to listen to. I was at work surrounded by normal work people. I was jumping up and down at the end of the episode
Yeah,
and
I was
screaming.
excited too.
It was-
Definitely.
oh, man.
I just knew it was going to be big. So.
How did you feel listening to it?
Oh my God, I loved it. I loved it. I mean, it was mixed really well, and yeah, I mean, especially like because this is the first time I got to bring back the Marauders theme.
Yes,
you
So
did.
that was what was really
Yes,
exciting
you
to me.
did.
And like the whole
and
thing
it was
of
a
like
creep
everybody.
too. It was a slow creep, and that which I loved.
Yeah, yeah,
It got
it
bigger
started,
and
yeah.
more notes with every single Marauder that came in.
Yeah, so when the first 2 or 3 come in, I kind of do just the basic chord progression, but not so overt. Just like kind of like it's progressing, it's slow, it's like building, and then when you come in though, then it's just freaking crazy.
That
yeah.
was the moment.
Yeah,
like, the
yeah,
music
like,
and,
yeah.
you know,
I-
So that's why you loved it so much. It's because the
Well-
music was complimenting you.
Yes, of course. But also,
course.
like, the whole thing, you know, I think something that is just so wonderful about your scoring is it tells a story alongside everything else that we're
Totally.
doing. You know, it's like you can hear when Peter joins, when Sirius joins, when Remus joins, all of their specific sounds start to join the chords together. And that's just so smart.
John Williams didn't invent it, but certainly he has probably popularized it more than anybody. But yeah, the leitmotif, the use of leitmotif with different characters coming in and out and using the themes is definitely something that with something like this you just have to do, or else it's just going to be sort of a wash of random music that I feel like
Right.
wouldn't be as effective emotionally.
Yeah.
But even so, we're going back to like sound effects, cueing music. Even when it's not a huge sound where I'm getting out of the way, the one note was like when the mask drops, when you hear the mask, like I didn't want to hit that too much, or you have to hit it after the mask drops, and then there's like I think a little like a gong whoosh or something.
Luther's
right?
mask gets knocked off. Is what
Yeah.
he's talking
Spoilers.
about.
Again,
Yeah.
please go listen to the episode,
Spoilers.
for God's sakes.
But yeah, and so that's definitely yeah, it was funny because there was a filmmaker I was emailing back and forth, and they were just talking about how he was like listening back to some music I was doing for his project, and how what you said about how he could just listen to the music and understand what was going on without necessarily the visual, which is great. Like not every filmmaker does think that way,
Right.
But those that do seems to notice that, you know. And I try to put a lot of effort into making sure that you could take away the film and still understand what's going on to some extent.
Yeah, I think something that you do really well is handle your silences really well, because it's like when Luther's mask comes off and we have that noise.
Yeah.
There is this beat where everybody just kind of takes a moment and sort of is like, that happened.
And you know, it's especially because it is audio only, you need to do that silence even more. Like I think silences in this podcast are even more important than in film, because in film there's other things, you know, there's literally visual distraction. There's literally the stuff that's happening visually that you can sort of get away with and around, but with audio, the person listening has to, I mean, they're going to put their own picture to it, but you need to make sure the audio doesn't in a way overclog their ears with information.
That's so fun to me is that what this podcast can do is that the audience creates their own picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is so much fun to me is that people are envisioning these characters the way they want to. I feel the art always complements it, but to me it's like the ultimate experience is wearing headphones and listening to it like, you know, in a dark room.
Well, that
and
was one of
then
the
you
reasons
envision it on your own.
we decided to do this. I mean, when this first started as like a half conversation.
Nothing to do with how we couldn't raise money again.
Well, no, I mean, okay, let's
or
be
how
honest.
incredibly
like,
stressful it is
yes,
to make these
like
things.
there is a whole bunch of mitigating circumstances of like money and the fact that Warner Brothers doesn't want us to raise it, and
Right.
how stressful it is to film, that we came up with this idea and we were like, well, like, is it going to be worth it? Like, yeah, we can write it, but like, what's the point unless we can tell the story?
Yeah.
And I think the thing that really sold, at least me on it, was in audio, because I love audiobooks, I love podcasts. In that medium, the play is happening inside of your head, you
That's
know, and
right.
it's like it's your characters, it's your setting, and if you can really get into it and really buy into what's going on, which your score just helps us do in spades, it's a fun thing. And there's things inside your head that you will never see on screen ever because they're yours. And
I mean, even with the biggest budgets, they sometimes still have problems putting everything on screen. So, but you can put anything on screen in your head, you know. So it's
Yeah.
like that's kind of interesting.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you remember how we got started together as a composer to director?
Yes.
How did that happen?
That happened because I believe I put posters up at Columbia College.
That's right. That's how proactive this dude is.
yes.
I just find this card. I was like, oh, it's a cool card. And I look him up and I'm like, this dude's like 17 years old.
So wait a second.
But then he like shares some of his work. And I was just like, this 17-year-old is a genius. So yeah, we'll work together.
You put how did you get a card? You put posters up first.
Well, there's a bulletin board in my school.
Okay.
And they allowed anybody who wanted to offer their services to put it up there.
Right.
Musical services. That was a weird twitch.
The eye twitch was for you only. I was going to let it go, but services in a college poster, like, where am I supposed to go with that?
Anywhere except where you're thinking.
Right. Free house maintenance is what I needed in college most. But so you would go to this school.
No, I never actually went to the school.
How did you get your posters up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I thought you just dropped it off.
Yeah, so funny story. So actually, this started, I think it was like either my junior or high school year, senior high school year. My dad suggested to me, if you want to score films, like you should try to score some like student college filmmaker films. Mm-hmm. And one of his clients was a teacher at Columbia College.
Which one?
I can't remember the name now. Now I'd have to.
You don't even know this story. You're getting new information.
Yeah. And so I believe this teacher was the person who then I sent him the flyers or whatever, and he was the one who put up the flyers everywhere.
So this teacher liked you so much that on their off time, they walked around their campus and taped things to walls and bulletin boards.
Supposedly, yes. Dude, I mean, it worked.
That's some real talent right there.
Yeah, it did work.
I couldn't get teachers to grade my papers.
It did work.
Well, it is interesting though, because I still do occasionally score student films or like master's thesis films, and there's always still a hunger for original music. People, they use temp music and they use famous scores, but they want things scored, original music.
Well, yeah, the Snape and the Marauders score is our score. Nobody else has it.
Yeah,
and that's what makes it one of the reasons why it's so special is that people can go and look up the soundtrack and listen to it over and over again and associate it with our movie. Same way with Harry Potter and their note and its notes of Hedwig's theme. Mm-hmm. We have that for Snape has a theme and the Marauders have a theme, and that's just amazing.
I think that's great that you still do student films and thesis films and stuff. Because, you're obviously successful. Like we were talking about before about this freaking Billy Talent awesome episodic thing that you're scoring.
Yeah, no, it's a cool project.
So, you're obviously working, but the fact that you go back and do these projects, I think is just a great... do you do that to keep your muscle working? Why do you think you keep going back to do student films or thesis films or, these lower paying gigs?
Just continuing to work with new talent, new passionate filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
I think a career in the arts, at least from my trajectory standpoint, is a very long-term career that I'd like to try to cultivate. It's not a 20-year career. It's not a 30. It's not a 4. It's a lifetime. I want to go career. Bernard Herrmann. I want to finish a score, go home and die. Yeah, that's it. Like my last score, I finished my score. I don't want like a Mozart Requiem situation where I've finished half the score. Right? Yeah, that would be horrible. But no, like he finished. I don't know what the score was, but he finished the score, went home, went to his hotel or something, died. That's it.
Someone
that's
look this up and send that score to Alex so he can keep it.
So that's my long view of the whole thing. Like I don't plan on retiring, so I want to try to continue to meet and work with as many new people as possible.
I love that.
John Williams right now. Everyone was like, he went to the hospital for something, got sick, and he's like in his mid-90s when he was working on the final Star Wars film, and everyone's like, oh my God, please don't die. And he's just like, I'm not going to die. I got to finish the score.
Yeah. He's like, I can wait. All right. Yeah. Death, give me one moment. I'm not quite
But then I scored your thesis film.
You scored 2. When I did my thesis film, it was
Holiday first, right?
Holiday, but technically that was thesis 2. I had
2
in my senior.
This time it's personal.
Yeah. So my school had trimesters, and they basically said you need to get one film done for your final year, and I got Holiday done in one trimester.
Now give me a log line for Holiday real quick, because to me this sounds like a Jack Black
it was on the poster.
Comedy rom-com.
No, it was a horror.
Okay.
It was a horror, and what was the thing? I forget. I have the poster.
Jack Black and Jude Law trade places. One's from England, one's from the United States. Will they find holiday love this summer?
Something like that. But it was just basically a story about how this family was coming home for Thanksgiving, and none of them liked each other, especially the brother and the sister. And the sister was really nasty and kind of evil. And it's kind of sets you on a path of where you think the brother ran off and then starts murdering everybody. Focusing on her, trying to kill her.
Wow, this is very dark.
Yeah.
Keep going. So what was your like? Give me like
I can't think of it right now.
This Thanksgiving family comes home.
Whatever.
For good.
I scored it.
But yeah,
when I was at Berkeley on my MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
With headphones and the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, he did that one first, and then I finished that one in one trimester, and I was like, I can do more. So we did Kiss,
So
which
your
was the
first movie was a horror movie.
Yeah, my first the first
Which is
final
interesting,
college
yeah.
film.
This is the guy.
It's not my first film
This
ever.
is the guy. So when
The
we
first
did
thing you ever
Powerless,
did.
which Alex also scored Powerless because he's just so good. We did Powerless, which is like a horror short. Now I'm
So
totally
good.
diverging. This is getting like a 9-hour podcast. Sorry.
Just
We're only 17 minutes in.
Yeah, well, put your seatbelts on, folks. So he goes to work on this horror movie short, and he's like, I got to do my research. I'm telling you, he's like, I got to do my research. I got to do all this stuff. I don't know horror movies at all. So he watched like Hereditary, The Witch. Like, did you ever watch The Witch, or did you?
Oh yeah, I watched The Witch.
You did. Okay. So all this horror movie research, because my fiance and I love horror movies. So I was like, yeah, do your thing. Like, do your research. You're telling me this whole time the first college movie that you did was a horror movie?
It was a bad horror movie.
All horror movies can be bad.
No, it was like there wasn't
that's
anything
not true. Some
scary
of them are
about
really
it. There was like nothing scary in that film.
I mean, the log line was pretty scary.
I mean, like the idea sounds creepy, but like just
In execution, it was
know.
it was shot like a single camera
Yeah.
episodic Dawson's Creek thing.
I was happy because I got one scare out of that.
Okay.
And like one scream when I screened it for college.
Did
One
the opening credits.
hey,
It was it was it was. Oh my god, it's starting! Ugh.
You're like, yay!
Or
I got it.
actually, I was lying. It was the end credits. Yay, it's over.
Oh, it's probably really good. I'm sure someone.
I'll send it to you.
Internet, dig up. I'm sure this is online somewhere.
I'm sure at least
Internet,
one of the,
find it.
One of the
This
fans
is
will
your.
find it. Yeah.
This is your power.
But anyways, he did Holiday, and then we did Kiss, and that one was much better. It was a romance,
Of course.
I just remember like we were finishing up that scoring session. We were up till like 2 or 3 in the morning to like finishing up the last scene.
oh my god, yeah, I rescored the whole last scene with you in the room. And actually, it was when the
was
whole
right
studio was
there.
facing this direction.
Yeah, it was the other side,
Wow.
and that was 2010.
Yes.
So you guys
9 years. We've known each other almost
a decade.
No, more than 10 years.
over a decade. Yeah.
yeah.
And you've worked together this whole time.
Every film I've made, he's scored.
So how has your relationship kind of grown and changed? Obviously, your MacBook is upgraded to whatever
you know.
this behemoth is behind you.
It's the Darth Vader trash can.
Yeah, it really.
For now. I actually just got the reading an email. The new Mac Pro is coming out on the 10th.
Wow. Is
And he's getting it. It was
Eventually.
Oh, that's your tower?
Yeah, the trash can.
yeah,
Mac,
the trash can.
can Mac
Jeez Louise, you guys.
The Darth Vader.
Apple products.
are the best.
Okay.
They're fabulous.
Get back to my very pointed question, please.
They're fabulous, except that I was replacing my iMac in Studio B, and when I opened it up this morning and I
He
pressed
gave
the
it
on
to
button.
his intern.
Oh, yeah, so I forget you have an intern. He's got an intern, folks.
But anyways,
and an assistant. But
This isn't when I know I've made
well,
it.
no, I mean,
My
things
dog
are,
is my
things are getting
assistant.
more busy for me, so I'm literally having to hand off more additional music for her to do. She was an intern, now she's an assistant, and I have another intern.
That's what I want to talk about, right? Is I mean, your career is growing so much that you're now giving other people projects.
Yeah,
which is great.
Which is weird because I also do additional music for other composers. So it's like this bizarre ecosystem where I do music for I do additional music for a couple composers that do just tons of feature films every year. Like literally, they scored 32 feature films this year.
Jeez
And
Louise.
so they have a crew of like me and like 4 or 5 other people. I'm like the 5th or 6th person on the list, but like it's like this ragtag band of people that we all score these films. And then there's this other guy that I've recently started working for this year, last 6 months, that he actually does children's music, like
cool.
kid shows, and it's made me.
You said that's a huge challenge.
It is. I mean, I describe it as musical Tourette's because every 2.5 seconds there is a character doing something, and you have to react to everything and everyone has a theme and everyone has an instrument. I mean, it's like Snape and the Marauders on steroids. I mean, everything. Every time, it'd be like every cue is broken up into like 15 smaller cues, and like each section is like 2 seconds of this, and you immediately have to switch to another thing.
So you're saying as our project has been dwarfed by a children's show.
Actually, thank God for me working on that, because it actually is, I think, how I was able to score episode 7 so well, because I tempo mapped everything. That's why everything was hitting so perfectly and seamlessly, because I've gotten so well trained now for tempo mapping before I even write a note of music that you have to do. Like scoring that trailer you watched earlier.
Yeah. I watched a trailer
same
earlier.
thing. Like I used to not like scoring trailers because it felt very much like, well, you just have to start and you have to stop. You have to start and you have to stop, right?
Right.
Well, that's literally what I do now all the time. So I'm just used to it. It's not even a thing. It's like I don't write music without tempo mapping a cue anymore. I used to kind of write music, and as I went along, I guess I need to like figure out how to like
well, it's a
bridge
matter
this
of
gap.
efficiency. This is a business.
Explain this tempo mapping to me, because I don't know what it is.
Yeah, so like like obviously like a slower tempo, like 80 BPM, like or like like the action scenes in episode 7 were probably like 160 BPM, like dun 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 dun,
Okay,
right?
got it.
Like
Beats
like
per
faster
minute.
and slower. And so basically, in order to actually hit things in film with frames, you're trying to hit certain frames versus in this case you're hitting, I guess, sort of audio moments, right? So obviously in a podcast it's a different situation, but same concept. I mean,
You're hitting moments.
Usually in film there's a little burned in time code that tells you up to the frame, and there's 24 frames or 23 point whatever frames per second in film.
Oh, I see.
And so, the human eye actually, I never really worked this way, but the human eye can actually basically, you can be off by 2 or 3 frames and the human eye won't really notice it. So you can kind of get away with being quote unquote off a frame, but I don't like to really practice that as a general thing. So I'm just like, I'm going to hit it exactly where it needs to be hit.
I feel like the subconscious would notice.
Yeah, I'd
Just
rather.
And honestly, sometimes it makes for better music because when, and I don't mean scoring, I mean like music, because
This is so interesting. This is not how my brain works, and I like this.
But I remember that Dave Grohl on Foo Fighters with one of his albums, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, he said, I'm going to do this entirely analog because I don't like that we can digitally, mathematically hit every beat. I want to figure it out. And then the tiny imperfections will change the quality of the music in a way that he believes is much better. And I agree with him.
Oh yeah, and there are certain elements, like there are certain things that I don't like to quantize. Like if there's just sort of like, if I'm just like doing like kind of a glissando, like a piano roll, I then will leave that unquantized so it's not perfect, because you need to have that kind of, because that's what a real musician would sound like. It wouldn't be clunk 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 clunk. It'd be ring, And so there's certain things you leave alone. You just leave it as it's supposed to be. But yeah, so I mean, in order to score that kind of stuff, which is literally, the guy told me when I first started working with him, this is the hardest kind of music to score, period. Like if you can do this, you can do anything. So
there you go.
What a great
It's literally weight training for film scoring. So because I then go and I score things that don't have as many complicated tempo maps, and it takes me half the time now.
And this guy, with his weight training regimen, you watch him on Instagram.
Oh, also,
he's got
this
it
is
down.
the strongest person I know, by the way.
I've had to back off of it. I've just been working so much. I've had to try to like shorten my workouts. But
Now he's only got a 6-pack instead of his 8-pack. That's too bad. I feel bad for you. Those other 2 abs, what are they doing? They're on break.
They're very lonely. They're very sad.
So if you were going to give, I mean, since we've kind of gotten into this, like,
Into the weeds.
If you could go back to yourself when you first started scoring music, with the knowledge you have right now, what advice, if you could give yourself one piece of advice, would you give yourself back then?
Creatively, or the business part, or like what aspect? Or
The business part, because everybody can get better at their craft without succeeding in the business.
All right, answer the
True.
business part for him and answer the creative part for me.
Yeah, I mean, because with the business part, and I've continued to sort of develop it, but I think, I don't know. What would I tell myself when I first started?
This is what happens when you don't prep your guests with the questions you're going to ask
true.
them. You just do it right out. And so
That's
you
how
can
we
think,
do it.
and we'll just vamp while you think.
No, hey, I'm used to improvisation, so it's all good.
That's true.
What about like how, when it comes to dealing with clients who are interested in your talents but not necessarily interested in proper compensation? How do you prepare for that ahead of time?
Oh,
You're framing the same question in a different way.
yeah, no, but that actually is something that I could have told I would love to have told myself when I first started, because it probably would have given me a lot less headaches. I used to be based on kind of research that I had done initially, like when I was in college, that supposedly you should like film scoring budget is some percentage of the film. And
It's like 2%, right?
yeah, and that might still be true to some extent, but again, it fluctuates, and it's not really something you can hold on to.
Sure.
And at
It
this
depends on the
level,
composer. It depends on,
yeah, I mean, maybe 10 or 20 years from now, that would be back to what would actually make sense, or those things will just be handled by agents and all sorts of other crazy things that go on. But in terms of if you are a freelance film composer, for me, what's actually made my life a lot easier is I basically just go off of different sort of scale rates of like amount of money per minute of music, and that weirdly has made it so much easier to negotiate and talk to filmmakers.
Oh, yeah.
Because in a weird way,
You just throw them the number and they go, okay.
And that's what I
Or
would have.
Can you do a little less?
Yeah,
And then you say yes or no.
yeah, because all of a sudden they can. Because there's a couple of things. I mean, obviously, anybody can then fudge the numbers if you're doing a percentage. So like that
That's
also
true.
that also makes it rather
Yeah, you're gonna get
That's a
three-
piece of advice for your younger
you're
self.
gonna-
Is
you're gonna
people
get-
will fudge the numbers.
Yep.
yeah. So I mean,
You get 1 point off the back end. What does that mean?
oh my God, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it makes it a lot easier when then all of a sudden you give them a rate. Like for instance, what I tell the easiest way for me to explain it is, well, the rate I would ask for a piano only score is going to be dramatically different than a fully orchestral score, just because
Sure.
there are so many
There's so many more instruments.
and people get that. And so I think that's the easiest thing is I would have told myself like, stop trying to square peg in a round hole. Like this is not working. Like because all of a sudden everybody would always ask me rate, and I'm like, it's not a rate, it's this. And so,
Right.
I think it was just like my dull-headedness to think that like I could sort of shift it to what I had been told you're supposed to do,
Well,
and
I
it just
think
doesn't
it's
work
an
that way.
inexperienced thing, and that I think
Yeah.
is a great piece of advice. Is the way I was told it was supposed to be. It doesn't work that
Yeah.
way because
Yeah.
it works different for everybody. And
Yeah, there's no rules.
I think through your experience, it sounds like you've learned to kind of adapt and improv with what's going on,
Yeah.
even business related, which is smart.
And creativity-wise, weirdly enough, the very thing that I thought we're talking about the tempo map issue, I actually didn't really like to do the whole like changing tempo maps and all sorts of stuff because I thought it would kind of like restrict me and make me too robotic and too this or that and cause too much writer's block or something. I don't really believe in writer's block anymore. Also, earlier this year, I read the book The War of Art, which totally changed
Yep.
my philosophy about
I read that book
the
too.
creative lifestyle. Like I just look at it
I'll
as
read it.
it's by Stephen Pressfield. It's amazing. I mean, basically, like there's no other like traditional job where you go to work and you're not expected to get a certain amount of product finished by the end of the day, right? Mm-hmm. It's like there's always like this artsy fartsy thing of like, oh, well, I don't feel like it. I don't, no, you are a professional artist.
It's nonsense.
It's non-negotiable. You roll
Yeah.
up your sleeves, you go to work, you have to produce whatever it is, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes of music a day, whatever it might be that day needs.
It's just the difference between discipline and motivation.
Yeah,
You
waiting
hear
for
a
you
lot
to-
of people like you're
waiting
not
for
getting
inspiration.
waiting for inspiration. You're not getting enough done because you're not motivated, and it's the truth is it's motivation. Discipline yourself
To
Yeah.
do it.
to do it.
I heard the way that I've heard this idea that I really liked is the guy Sam Jones from Off Camera was talking about this, and he goes, anybody can take a good picture, right? But he's like a professional photographer is like, can you take a good picture this Thursday?
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly,
oh,
yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you can't. You're right. You can't wait around for inspiration to strike. It's like you just gotta. Motivation comes after work begins.
Yeah.
And there's a study actually. I don't know what the study was, but it was an example of a professor who basically had half of his students, they were required to only have to take one photo the whole year, but their entire grade is based on that one photo, versus the other half basically could take as many photos as they wanted. And as it turned out, that one great photo that was writing on everything, the people that only had to do one photo, that one photo was relatively mediocre, whereas the people that had to do like 1,000 photos, they had far more great photos because they had more practice. They were just doing it more. They were just getting better at it. They're getting more reps. And so, I mean, with the tempo map thing, I don't get writer's block anymore really, because also what happens is, say it's even a crazy, like a longer cue, like a 3-minute cue. Like again, by tempo mapping it, you break it down into like kind of like chunks of things you're hitting. Say I don't know how to start the cue. I don't know what the music is at the beginning. I have no idea for some reason. I don't know why, but I don't.
Sure.
Especially early on in a score where I don't have a lot of themes yet. But I know what to do in the middle. That 30 seconds from this point to this point, I know exactly what to do. Or as simple as, that has to have a cymbal crash. It has to have a timpani roll.
Yeah.
I have to put that in no matter what. So let's just put it in now. Then it just
That's when it starts
and all
to
of a sudden
go.
then you have now, because also the benefit of that is now you know where you're coming from and where you're going out of. You actually know where you're building.
Right.
So if you finish the end of the cue, you know, okay, you should probably have less energy or more energy based on the fact that if it's the end, usually might be more or less energy depending on how it's ending. But yeah, it gives you context. And so yeah, I used to definitely work in a more chronological order. Now it's whatever.
I've started doing the same thing.
Sometimes it'll be at the very beginning, but it just opens up the possibilities.
It's the nice thing about
That's so
It's
interesting.
not like building a house. You don't have to start with the foundation and build up. You could start with the roof.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's interesting because breaking down scripts for me now has become this thing of like, what part of this do I really enjoy? Like, what part of the script is jumping out at me? Like, oh, that's cool. I like that. And I jump into that and I'll kind of dig around in that for a while and find some choices out of it. And just by starting, it's like other things start to kind of take shape. And see how this is now turned blue? You see how this is all over? Because it's a Mac product. It's it. Oh, well, everybody's
called a
stealing your
screensaver,
password
buddy.
right now. Here we go.
It's called a screensaver.
Yeah, after 30 minutes, I do
I'm
let
sorry,
it.
my
Windows
computer
not have
doesn't have a
screensavers?
screensaver. It's got a sleep mode
Oh,
that I turned
okay.
off. So my
Oh, okay.
computer never sleeps.
So your screen basically has a burned-in picture of
Well,
your headshot. 'Cause that's what you
Technically,
keep
my
in
screen is
front of you.
broken at the moment.
Oh, okay.
but I broke
Macs
it.
are terrible.
Listen, this isn't a thing where we do the thing where I'm wrong and you're right. It's just an opinion, but mine's right.
Yeah, the thing that I was saying earlier was I was opening this new iMac that I'm replacing, this 2011 iMac. It's like on its last leg. I had to replace its graphic card and the whole 9 yards, but I have this new one, and as I was trying to turn it on, it won't turn on.
The new one won't?
Yeah, it's black screen. I'm returning it. I have to return it and get a new one, but like I turned it on, and literally I can just hear a voiceover is starting to say, it's like, would you like English or like Espanol?
Oh,
like literally,
because it's waiting for you.
Because it's trying to boot your
it doesn't know what to
system.
do. Like it's on, but the screen won't turn on. It's like I am not going to start my relationship with this computer going to tech support. No,
Did you open it and it was
properly.
like, "Hello, Alex. It's been so long since I've seen you.
I'm sorry, Alex. I cannot do that for you.
I can't do that.
Why don't I
Dave.
dream, Alex?
Why are you putting me back, Alex?
Don't put me in the box.
Don't. My life was so short.
Don't send me back. No, I promise.
I'll be good. I'll turn on this time.
Yes, and we've lost our minds.
So let's talk
Did
about...
that answer the creative part and the business part?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. Did it answer it?
Yeah, no, it
Yeah, I feel satisfied. Yeah.
yeah.
That was good.
So let's get to our story.
Yes.
Let's talk about what's going on in this episode.
What is going on in this episode?
Basically, I just like speculating on what you guys think is going on in the characters' minds whenever.
This is an unfair question to ask me because
No,
we just met
because
for
it's
coffee
because
the
it-
other day, and
No,
all
no,
we
no,
did
no,
was
no.
talk
This is-
about
this
what's
is about-
going on in the characters' mind.
Yeah, for the next episodes, but not this episode.
All right, fair.
And I love to hear actors' motivations for what they were thinking when they said the lines that they said.
Okay.
And also, I'd love to hear, what do you think was going on in their heads, and where do you think it's headed? Because you don't have all the scripts.
That's true.
No,
Alex does not
which
have
is kind
all
of
the
fun.
scripts.
Like I almost
Write
am
them
like
all
the audience is like, yeah, I'm scoring this one, but I don't know what
You don't know
how
what's
the episode
happening.
ended. I'm
Right.
like, I don't know exactly what
I gotta say,
what they're doing.
That is so wild because I know where everything's going, which is an unfair advantage. But you are building a story with us, and you don't have all the pieces.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but I mean, obviously,
Nah, it's good because I want the score to be on par with the audience.
yeah,
Like,
I don't
you know
want
what's-
to. I'm afraid I'll hint at something if I know it.
Exactly. I don't want to hint that at you.
Well, let's say, I mean, and this is not the traditional way to do it. Like if you have someone scoring a film, they usually have the whole film, and they're like, "Oh, here we go. I know what's happening."
yeah, it's the whole film, but this is a series.
This is true.
Yeah.
But even then, you usually have like a storyboarded out full series for at least that season, and the composer.
I mean, we had the very basic beats.
That's true.
And Alex, I might have told you at some point what the basic beats are. Who knows if you remember? Let's not talk about them because I don't want to
Yeah,
give away
exactly. Yeah, I was
spoilers.
thinking is like I think you did mention a couple of things, and I'm like, I don't want to say it.
Yeah,
That's fair.
All right. So, what do you think was the reasoning that James Potter decided to take back the Marauders map?
I mean, well, at this point,
Because he didn't take it back for plot reasons.
no, he did not take it back for plot reasons.
No.
He took it back because his life has literally been turned upside down, right? He just found out his parents are dying. All of his friends have scattered to the wind. He doesn't trust Peter anymore. He doesn't know where Remus is. He doesn't know what to say to Sirius because he feels like it's his fault.
Yeah.
So the Marauders map for him is this big security blanket. It's the last thing where everything made sense, right? Literally, it's a map of the last part of his life. So for me, James goes back to Hogwarts to reconnect. It's like after I graduated high school, I left and I moved away to college. And the first summer I came back, one of the first things I did was drive to my old high school in Park, and it was closed. And I just kind of walked around and I looked at the old buildings.
I've done that before.
And everybody does that. I
Yeah.
think it's a pretty universal thing because it's like you want a touchstone with who you were if you're not sure where you're going.
Sure.
And for James, that touchstone is Hogwarts. I mean, and it's the Marauders map. It was his parents and it was his friends, and all of that is gone or different. So it's like you got to go back and you got to kind of refigure it out. So that's why I think he goes back and picks up the Marauders map and takes it from Filch.
Right on. Any thoughts on that, Alex?
I feel like he
You got
explained
it.
it about as
All
good
right,
as
so I got-
yeah, I mean, man, that's
So
pretty. That's very
I got,
thorough.
I got one for you, Alex.
very
Like
thorough.
you definitely had some very visceral scoring with the Death Eaters.
Yes.
In this, even had some choir in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
oh my god, this is awesome. So you also had a theme. So you had a theme for the Death Eaters, and you had a theme for Luther. And I'm interested to know like where your reasoning was as to why you choose what notes you choose for Luther. And for Luther, and for this particular scene with the Death Eaters, before it turns into the Marauders theme.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to establish obviously them as the bad guys, and certainly the kind of the rhythmic kind of very visceral sort of darker kind of vibe. I also wanted to have some level of contrast, so when you are dealing with because there's a period where obviously they're not fighting each other, and that those parts are a little more placid, a little more sort of atmospheric, and so I definitely wanted, because part of what you had sort of warned me about this episode was that it was going to be taking place geographically in different locations, and when you first told me that, I was like, I don't really know what does he mean by that? Like, are they literally in different countries? Like what is happening? But obviously once I started listening to it and figuring out what was going on, it was more just geographically within the town and everything. Like they're in different places trying to get to each other, and like so that is part of it. Like it's like setting up these different beats for when each one is talking. The music should shift similar to the sound design around the area.
I think you and Jordan working together on this one nailed that.
Yeah.
Because you really can tell where everybody is, like geographically in that town, and it just lends a lot to the story.
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously the sound effects are going to definitely do the heavy lifting with literally where are they. Obviously you can hear like the crickets and rustling of certain things when they're further away from the town, and the background sound. You can hear the fighting still, which is interesting. But I don't. since you're closer to the people that aren't in the fight yet, like I don't want that necessarily. I want it's also just part of like contrast, like anything else. Like you can't have the high without the low, so you want to have the moments when people are further away from the action. Like that shouldn't be as intense, and obviously then of course as the episode goes on it gets more and more intense and more visceral. And I think part of it is, I think I definitely I think to some extent the Death Eaters are basically getting an inheritance from Snape's music, which is very visceral. So I think that's
cool.
That's part of how it folds into itself, because obviously there's not necessarily, outside of Luther, there's not like tons of time to develop every single character in this type of a scenario. And so I think on some level it's almost like Snape's music is getting like lowered onto the body of the Death Eaters, like sort of like the
That's
around
cool.
that
Yeah,
sort of in a way.
it's connecting to it.
Yeah, in a way, where they're very visceral and it's dark and it's scary and powerful, and then obviously the Marauders are a little more light and heroic, and then obviously then there's just all the stuff in between, which is the more atmospheric little bits and pieces that come along with it.
Totally.
You said that the sound design, Jordan's sound engineering does most of the heavy lifting for like geographically where they are and like how they're getting there, and I would say probably the score does most of the emotional heavy lifting.
Yeah, and that's always
there.
I mean that's always the question of like, when do you need to effectively use the sound design versus the music, like because each one provides, generally speaking, relatively dramatic different uses.
Well, explain to me now, because in this scene Sirius runs in first.
Yes.
Remus and Peter follow.
They're right behind him.
And so how did you use your like how were you using the score at that point to kind of help tell the story? Like what did you think was going through Remus's head?
Yeah,
because
I think during that cue it's more chill, but then near the end of it starts to kind of build up, and then it cuts to some of the I think the Aurors and the Death Eaters fighting each other.
Yep.
And so then that kind of takes back to the Death Eaters in a way. And then sometimes again, I can't hit everything all the time. It's not like every single second is mathematically mapped out to perfection, but I try.
I don't want it to be.
Yeah, I don't want it to be too crazy.
I'd rather be focusing thematically, because you did have the Death Eaters, and then you had like, to me it was like I heard Death Eater music, and then I heard music of a fight.
Yeah,
like it was a fight, and then you didn't have specific music for the Longbottoms when they showed up, which was good. I was like, they're part of a larger group, which is the Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
And then the fight itself. But then once Sirius Black comes in, it changes.
Yes,
but that was so cool.
And it's subtle. And then Remus comes in, and it gets a little bit more. And then James comes in, and it's full on Marauders theme.
Yes,
that's what made it so much fun.
Yes,
that's what made it so good, and just got my heart palpitating, and was just like, this is what the fans are gonna love. Because I remember early comments saying, why would you separate the Marauders? They would never do that. I'm like, okay, so they're not human beings who get mad at each other?
Yeah.
Whatever. But don't worry about it, because I'm going to bring them back together, and it's going to be great.
Oh,
You're going to love how they come back together.
And it's because of the time apart that makes it so great when they're back together.
Yeah.
I mean, that, again,
it's a payoff.
Is your score doing the heavy lifting of the emotional payoff,
yeah,
right?
because because regardless, like, obviously we're all fans of art and media and stuff, regardless of the fact that we also create it. So it's like, I just as a viewer was like, man, they are all in different places, but like that's not a bad thing. That's just part of narrative plot. Like you can't have
their arc.
You can't. Yeah, I mean, like you
There
have
has
to
to
have
be a level of conflict. They can't just be like, oh, well, what do we do now? Plot.
The four of us together always. What are we gonna do together always?
No,
the four
I
of
like
us.
that.
Yeah,
I
we're
like
gonna
that as a
argue a
story
bit.
beat.
Yeah, it's not as strong as them as separating them.
Yeah, because you can then also develop them as unique individuals rather
That's
than
right.
just being the group, which basically that's all they were in the film. Like, they were
Can
the
you
group,
imagine they
basically.
stay together and they just decide to accompany Peter Pettigrew to meet his mom?
Yeah. Right.
I don't have Turkish delights for all of you.
We're just gonna wait over in the corner. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all there when
Seriously,
they find out that
yeah.
James's parents are gonna die. It's like,
Oh God.
God.
They, like it'd be this everly more depressing montage of
Yeah.
events.
In my head, I picture James like sitting on the couch, and then it just like camera shift to your left, and the three of them are just like awkwardly like, "Oh no."
Yeah, someone passes a tissue. It's like,
Yeah. Sorry, mate. Wow.
This is awkward. Your parents are gonna die soon.
Yeah.
Peter,
Peter,
what?
shut up. Did you have anything to eat? Sorry to interrupt.
some crumpets.
Sorry, I'm gonna die, but I'm hungry.
We haven't eaten all day, and you know how it is.
So, what do you think is like? Sirius wants to get everyone back together. That's what he's been trying to do the whole time. But
Yeah.
what is his reasoning? Like, what is he afraid of if he doesn't get them back together in the group the way he's used to? Like, he wants them to get back together, and if he does, then he'll feel better. But let's put in a what if of if they didn't. Like, what's his thought process on how he would possibly move forward, and why does that scare him?
I answered this first. Do you want to answer it first?
Yeah. I think I have an idea. I mean, I think you actually even mention it. I think he has a dialogue line in episode 7 where he's like, "That's why I stopped being a part of the Black family." And like, I think that in a way, like the Marauders are his family, and so literally, it would literally be like the dissolution of his family if they're not all together.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, that's a terrible feel that I think a lot of people can relate to. Also, it's not like
Sure.
a unique fear per se.
I think Sirius is one of my favorite arcs for us because the Sirius we meet knows in the books, in the books, knows solitude really well. Like,
Yeah.
he has a flying motorcycle, which is the most isolating way to fucking go anywhere. Oh man, I didn't curse this whole time. Sorry, Grandma. So we meet this guy who's like been to prison, right? He is solitude is his best friend.
Sure.
You know? And the series that we meet in our series is not that way. He is reliant on this group being a part of this awesome group. And for me, this arc is Sirius losing that and understanding how to be by himself. And I love that arc. And I think that's why he wants everybody to get back together, because he doesn't want to be lonely.
Right.
He literally has no one else. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Because we can see that the Order of the Phoenix doesn't trust him yet. And we can also see that he doesn't have family. James and his parents and the rest of the Marauders, that's it for him.
We'll be going a little bit into that with episode 8. Like, we don't even know that he's not that the Order is a little bit skittish of him until episode 8. But
Someone should
that's
stop
not really a
spoiling
spoiler.
the episodes.
That's not really a
And
spoiler
maybe
though.
should-
A Black is going to join the Order. I think every member would be like, "Are you sure?" Because every other member of his family are some of the deadliest people on Earth.
Yeah.
So
Word. So, spoiler alert. You guys should
it's
listen
all right.
to episode 8 before listening to this. We exist on the internet. All time is happening right now. So if you haven't listened to episode 8 yet, guys, go listen to it, okay? Because we're gonna spoil.
Yeah,
some
this is
things.
like Dark. This is like the Netflix series Dark. Like everything has already happened actually.
Yeah.
Oh
Sorry.
God, yeah.
I haven't watched that.
Leona loves that one.
It's
loves
my
that
it's
series.
my favorite
Isn't
show
that the
right now.
German one? My
Yeah.
parents told me
Yeah,
to
the
watch
German
that.
side.
It's so
Sci-fi.
good. And now
Yeah,
they're
I've been
taking
meaning
it
to
to a
get
whole
into
other thing
Extra
for season
dark.
3. Yeah, it's gonna
Ultra
get even
dark.
crazier, but yeah.
Darker.
Darkest.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. That was to season 2. Season 3 is darkest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they do a season 4,
Darkerest.
yes.
Yay.
Yeah. So James has seen Snape for the first time since the fight in
I
Severus Snape
am
and the
so
Marauders.
happy, finally, dude.
Yeah.
7 episodes, people.
Yeah.
Took me 7 episodes to get this out of Justin. I wanted them to fight immediately. Like, when we were first talking about this story,
Yeah.
we were like, all right, cool. So this is kind of the basic idea. Like, all right, I like it. And I was like, so the first episode, like James kicks Snape's butt, right? And you're like,
that has
no.
been the longest fight you and I have had of like James would totally beat Snape. I'm like, no, he really wouldn't.
But you know what?
James would totally fight Snape right now. I'm like, I don't want that to happen. I disagree.
Agree, and I understand that you disagree, but one of us has to be correct.
Well,
but no, this was a big, and I'm so glad that you waited because this meeting of the minds,
it's the satisfaction of the moment.
It is
and
true.
even then, it's a short fight.
It is a short fight,
and the fight is basically it's not a proper fight.
One of my favorite things about the fight is it's almost a rehashing of the fight in Snape and the Marauders. Some similar things happen thematically in the fight.
Yeah, can't take a hit, and he's dodging spells.
Right,
yeah.
But I love the way that it ends, and I love kind of what it's alluding to, because I think after I listened to it, I felt frustrated for James because it's like right there.
Yeah, see, if I satisfy his fight with Snape early on or even in the middle, then his arc is at least a huge part of his arc is over.
Yeah, agreed.
And that can't happen until the last or penultimate episode.
Yeah, it can't happen until the climax of the show.
Climax
for
of the
sure.
show, yeah.
Well, I did like how the fight did mirror aspects of the film where you have Snape basically gonna go for the kill. But this time, out of, I think, hubris and just kind of like continuing to pontificate upon that, James basically just knocks him back. Yeah,
that was our compromise.
Yeah,
he's just like he was like, James can be Snape. I'm like, Snape can't be James. Yeah, Snape can't win. Snape can't lose. Snape can't win. That was the back and forth.
Stalemate, basically.
Yeah, and that's where we've been compromising. Like, let's make them a stalemate. So
right.
But it's good though, because like James learned though, like in a way, like James or it certainly improved, didn't necessarily learn, but like certainly was more ready for the situation.
He's a little bit more ready, but he rushes in.
Oh yeah,
which he shouldn't have done.
Yeah, true. I love it because this fight is a great like middle fight. Like things have been learned by both sides.
Yes,
they're both a little more ruthless and fighting a little bit different. But James falls into the same trap that Snape fell into in the movie.
Right,
is that he can't just take the win and be the guy.
Well, James can't take a step back.
Yeah, James has to be in the forefront of like in his face and like about what's going on, and he loses his quarry, and then he realizes that Lily is in danger.
Right
at the end of this, and I think this is a big wake up call for James because he almost gets what he wants. He almost gets exactly what he wants,
which is what you should never do in a story unless you want it to end. Unless you want it to end on a low note.
That's true. He almost gets exactly what he wants, and in almost getting it, he realizes that the thing he holds most dear is in danger, and he had no idea.
Right.
So this for him, I think, is just a seismic shift in his priorities.
Sure.
Is when Snape leaves and tells him that St. Mungo's is under attack or it's already theirs.
Right.
And it's like, that is just a punch right in the stomach because he was so close, right? I think up until this point, James has been saying what people want to hear, right? Yes, like I'm going to change. Like, yeah, okay, maybe it wasn't it could have been better.
Yeah.
Whatever. But when he sees Snape, game over. Sorry.
Yeah, he regresses. That was the idea in Snape and the Marauders. Like,
of course.
He's, I say that he is progressing. Lily's influencing him, and he's becoming a better person. But once Snape shows up, he just kind of clicks into a different person.
Happened again to this degree,
again.
And he did grow a little because he ended up getting the upper hand.
And it's a process. He will keep growing.
Yes.
So, and like all the characters grow. And either they end up on a high note or they end on a low note.
Sure.
And it really depends on what the character is going through. And every character that we figured out, they end on the high note or they end on a low note.
I will say this has been the hard part. We'll see how it works out. This has been the hard part of me co-writing this with you is that James. The first time I ever met you was me breaking down the role of James.
Yeah.
So he is intrinsically just somebody that I am very much fighting for all the time. And when we write, it's like I have to really work on taking that hat off.
But I'm giving him the arc he needs to make him that much better of a person.
And I agree with you.
But if I followed with some of the things you want to do, he just wouldn't be there.
You gotta give me the benefit of the doubt. It's really hard for me to be like, why don't you hit James in the face again? It's great. I love that part when you just kick his ass.
It's okay.
But it's fine because it makes for a better story.
He'll end up fine.
Who knows? Who knows? Don't spoil a gosh darn thing.
Look, it's obvious that he gets killed by Voldemort at the end of it, so he's fine. He's fine.
Plot armor, baby.
Yeah.
Well,
like, you can't die now. You die later.
Yeah, I'm not going to die here. We could totally say that. I'll write that in.
But yeah, any last thoughts on this episode? Any speculations on your part, Alex? Since you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm curious if it's gonna open at Mungo's or it's gonna go some other direction. It's gonna go with the Order.
Isn't this fun?
Is the next episode the one episode the special one?
Yeah, how are you gonna say that?
That does not help me. There's special stuff that happens in each episode.
No, that's true. All of our babies are special.
Yeah.
Is this the one that is?
I'll say this, that this
It's a different
episode,
style.
Episode 8, no. Episode 9 is a different style.
Got it.
Episode 8 is Marauders and Order of the Phoenix centric. Very, very much so.
Okay, cool.
And then episode 9 is a very different way of telling a story in general.
Yes.
And has a huge plot twist.
Yay.
Episode 8 is basically the end of Act 2.
Yes.
For the story and for James Potter.
We should let Alex now that I've ruined everything. What do you think is going to happen next?
Yeah.
He has no idea.
I don't know. I mean, obviously they've taken over St. Mungo's, but like, would this be an opportunity then, I guess, for James to not practice or to practice, not just going in headlong and trying to actually, plot out and strategize in a sense so that it's not just throwing oneself into the situation just like he does typically.
Right.
All right. If you were a wizard in this, if Alex was a wizard in this situation.
Alex is a wizard.
Well,
but
if this is true.
If he could use literal magic.
No, he can use literal magic.
Yeah.
Look at this.
You can't do a what if. He's already a wizard.
Right,
he's already
fine.
making magic.
Let's say your literal magic self existed in this time and given circumstance. What would be your next step?
Well, which character am I?
You're yourself. Are you a good guy or a bad guy?
That's the problem. I think actually on Pottermore I'm a Slytherin. So
well, what's your next step?
Slytherin. See, everyone thinks that I'm like, you're anti-Marauders. I'm like, no, I'm not anti-Marauders. In fact, I defend Slytherin all the time. It just happens to have
Slytherin gets a bad rap.
Yeah, Slytherin does get a bad rap.
All right, so your Slytherin-ness, what would you do? What would you do next?
I don't know. I mean, that's always been my gripe with bad guys is that they wait too long to get the job done. Like, I would be much more ruthless than most bad guys. Like, I would just go for it because if I am a bad guy, like, I wouldn't be talking about stuff.
You're on track with Bellatrix. That's your frustration right now.
I would have just done it already. It would have been done.
You would have
gotten there. It would be dead already. It'd be over.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys, you're a
bit of an Anton Dolohov.
Yeah.
You're a bit of Bellatrix.
That is good to know.
Yeah. I don't need to. Would they say like the best revenge is success? So it's like let the success speak for itself. So in this case, let the whatever they're doing to speak for itself.
So so you're a Death Eater. You have St. Mungo's. How do you feel?
Well, obviously the only thing I don't know plot wise why they are necessarily there per se.
Well, Snape did say he's got all the beakers and cauldrons he needs.
True.
And they've been gathering stuff the whole time.
I would make the thing that they need to make. Yeah, that would be probably my next first best step.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I guess the thing I'm curious is obviously are they then taking people there hostage? Obviously, that would make some level of sense, right?
Sure.
For security purposes, even though they are powerful. Obviously, they didn't like just straight up win this last battle per se. It was once again somewhat of a stalemate at best. So yeah, I mean, obviously you'd probably have to take hostages to some extent. Now I'm like pontificating, like if I were Alan Rickman in Die Hard, like how would I go about?
That's awesome.
This is
full circle.
Yeah, wow, we've really changed the image of Alexander.
You put the CEO of the company you're holding hostage in front of a chair and just shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I just slowly start growing a goatee, come out of a truck.
With no ambulance.
Are you a cowboy, Mr. McLean? Oh man. Great. I love that you're a Death Eater. So in your mind, Death Eaters are gonna hold on to what they've got and forward their plan. That's
double down.
It's a good next step. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
If only I could remember what we wrote. If only
That's a surprise even to
could
him.
remember what we wrote.
Yep. All right, guys. We will see you with episode 8, which is in Jordan's hands right now.
Yes. Also, give a shout out of where people can find your stuff and see
Yes.
what you're up to, handles and all the stuff. Because you not only do you score movies, but you also write your own songs and produce your own music. So tell the fine folks in the internet where they can get at you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Alexander Arntzen, ARNTZEN. That's the easiest one. That's the one that's like just my namesake. But
It's also got a lot of his working out on there. So if you want to get motivated,
it did.
check
Now
out the
hopefully it's a little
Instagram.
more film scoring. Yeah, I try to make it a little more professional.
Fair enough.
But and then on SoundCloud / Alexander Arntzen, and then my songwriting name is Apollo Mason. So you can find my songs by searching Apollo Mason. On all the iTunes, Apple
I gotta
Music,
have a stage
Spotify.
name now. I want a stage name.
Well,
What's
you
my
also
stage
got to
name?
put a link in the description of this video to the rap song that Paul and Alex did together.
Yeah,
Not. Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Mischief Managed.
It's not mischief. It's you guys did something else later, right?
Yes.
You guys have done a lot of cool stuff.
No,
Paul
yeah.
Stanko, who plays Remus Lupin,
Yeah.
and you made some killer music.
Yeah,
so
yeah. There's another song. Yeah, that we
Alex
did together.
should not stop doing that. He needs to keep doing it because he's fantastic.
Paul just needs to keep doing everything that he's doing.
Yeah.
He's doing a great
I mean,
job.
he's still in stage and he's amazing.
Paul,
we need to
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
This episode with Alex as our guest is about Paul Stanko.
It's mostly
keep
about
doing
Paul
what you're
Stanko.
doing.
Yep.
But
It doesn't have an Instagram account, Sweet Paul Stanko, that actually isn't really there too. Which I always tag him anyway. But even though I literally know it's not going to do anything.
It's not him.
Yeah.
Well, I will say something that's just been so great is that the amount of everybody who's worked on this project is so passionate and just so full of creative joy, and it is such a pleasure having you as a part of this, man, and just getting to know
Absolutely.
you through this whole process.
Hell yeah.
It's just been great, and the both of you guys, hats off to just how wonderful you've been doing.
To you.
Yeah. So, and thanks for watching and keeping up, and we have so much more to come. So like and share.
This
and,
is where it's gonna start to get heavy.
yeah, keep your notifications on because it's
It's-
gonna get
yeah.
wild.
Yeah, we were going through all this stuff, and I was just like, "Hey guys, look, I know y'all are heavy duty Potterheads, and what the stuff we are doing is really it's not taking risks, but we're making sure that it's heavy enough, but doesn't break anything.
We
So if
try
you
not to
catch
break
us-
anything.
If you catch something that's questionable, talk to us." And there were a couple times where that happened. They're like, does this happen with this? And we're like, yes.
Yes.
We just need
Yes,
to
it
do.
does.
We just need to do a minor rewrite. Okay, we're good.
Oh
Okay,
man,
cool.
there's been a couple times. There's been a couple times, and we're supposed to end the episode again. This is gonna be like 2 years long. There's been a couple times during recording that actors have come up and been like, "Oh, is this thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's that." Hold on, and then I just sit and Google and research, and we call her like Harry Potter expert, and
Yep.
she's like, and I'm like, "Okay," and then I hang up. I'm like, "Yeah, obviously it works that way."
Totally. That's
Like the
exactly how we intended it.
That we almost had doctors in St. Mungo's. We
Yeah.
were recording doctors in St. Mungo's.
it was healers.
And then I was like, oh, doctors don't exist in the Harry Potter universe except for to be ridiculed by wizards.
Right.
So we had to rewrite all of the first 4 episodes.
Yeah, it was. We changed to healers, and it was fine. So
Yeah, but that's the kind of work that we do every single day to make sure that this is up to the standards of
But-
the original work because we care a lot about it and we care a lot about you guys. So yeah,
it's gonna get heavy soon.
it's going to get heavy.
So episode 8 is in Jordan's hands. It's going to take a few weeks for him to finish it up, and then it goes to this guy for scoring. It's a lot less dense this time, so hopefully we should be able to.
Will the storm be arriving starting with episode 8? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the storm will arrive.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the storm.
We're in the
It's
eye
just
of the storm.
building.
We're in
The
eye of
storm has happened.
It's
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're it's category 2 right now, but it'll keep building to a category 5.
Oh, mate.
Yep.
I'm so excited.
But thanks guys for watching, and we'll catch you soon.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.